river, run, run through the hills. Run, river, run to the sea. Run, river, run to your place beneath the sun. Run, river, run over me.
Hi, this is Jan Lewis. Welcome today to be my guest. We have Aaron Spelker with us today, and he's an author who wrote his first book, The Bubonic Reorder. Welcome, Aaron.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome. I read about Aaron in the Sunday issue of the Daily News. He's a blind author who predicted the pandemic in 2020. Could you start with that? How did you know?
Really coincidence. The start of this book goes all the way back to 2014, where I kind of was reading some articles about the bubonic plague and how that virus spread around Asia and Europe. And at the same time, I read another article that was talking about modern pandemics and saying how those are really quite different than how it was when the bubonic plague was spreading, which was kind of village to village and town to town.
Yeah.
In this kind of modern age, you can be halfway around the world in a matter of hours. So instead of spreading outwards and ever expanding like it did with the bubonic plague, multiple hotspots can kind of pop up at the same time all around the world. And so I thought that was kind of a really interesting concept to think about. And the articles were really, scientists saying, we really have to rethink, how we identify viruses, how we contain viruses, because our traditional methods aren't really going to work in a modern world. So I thought that was kind of a compelling thing.
Yeah. What a timely book. Really, it's the Bubonic Reorder. This is what, did you have someone design the cover for you, or did you tell them what you'd like?
I had someone design it. I told them generally what I want. It was Robert Conway, who is actually a student in graphic design, and a friend of mine who is a professor recommended him to me. So he did a really great job from what people tell me with the book cover.
It's let me tell you, with the blood coming out of the O in bubonic, that's pretty telling. Right? I like that. And which city is that? Do you know?
That's Boston.
It's Boston.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, without giving away the ending or whatever like that, give us kind of a rundown of what the book is to whet everyone's appetite.
Yeah, sure. So it really kind of has two parts. So the first part is in the 14th century, following a family who is really on the front lines of the bubonic plague as it begins its outbreak, and they're trying to struggle to survive as the world's kind of being devastated around them, and trying to keep ahead of the virus as it's spreading. And then the second part is in modern times, which is actually in 2020. And it's following kind of two groups. One is a group of scientists who are becoming aware of a new outbreak that has started in China and has started to spread. And how do they identify it and how do they contain it? Because again, it's spreading, as I mentioned from those articles, it's spreading not in a group, but popping out in multiple places simultaneously. So their kind of traditional methods aren't working to contain it. And then the other is following a retired Army Staff Sergeant whose family is kind of, on the front lines here in the year 2020 of this new outbreak, and they're trying to, survive that outbreak, and it kind of has parallels and similarities to what the family in the 14th century.
When did you come up with the idea? Have you been thinking about it for years, or did it just happen?
So the most of the entire story got kind of thought about in 2014. So I read those two articles, and I actually, a couple days later, had a dream that kind of is all the major points that are in the book. And when I woke up, I was, kind of so blown away of how vivid that dream was that I kind of bullet point and jotted down, who some of the characters were and what some of the scenes were. And over the 2014 to 2019, I just kind of dabbled in it. When I had some free time, I'd do some research or do some more in-depth outlines of chapters. And then how did I predict 2020? The year 2020 came up because in my dream, the Olympics get canceled because of the spread of the virus. And so in my research, I was trying to figure out, what Olympics are. There's 2016, 2020,
Yeah.
and then 2024. And I was like, well, with 2020, I knew it was going to be in Japan, and I figured, well, that's kind of a really interesting spot. If the virus is started in China, then having Japan be right there would be an interesting Olympics to do it. And then it also gave me 6 years to try to write the book, because I wanted to write the book.
This happened, it was in 2019, so you were already, Aaron was already in the process of the book, and by 2019 you were in Cancun, and so it was already coming, the book was coming, right?
Yeah, I mean, major chapters had been outlined, in detail by then. And 2019, after I lost my sight, I obviously had a lot of free time on my hands, so I was trying to figure out, what occupies my life and my days.
Share with viewers about what happened.
Oh, sure. So I was on my 20-year wedding anniversary with my wife. We were in Cancun, and on the first day, we went down to the beach, to check out the ocean, and a big gust of wind blew up, and it blew all the sand into my eyes. And for the 5 or 6 days that we were there, my eyes were really bothering me and tearing, and I just figured, got sand in my eye, or there's still some sand in my eye, and it was just kind of really irritating. And I flew back to the United States, and the next morning after I got back, I woke up and my eyes were completely crusted over with a major infection. And I went to my eye doctor, and I was there about 30 seconds before they said, we need to admit you to the intensive care unit at Tufts Medical.
Yep.
And they sent me over there, and I ended up spending 3.5 weeks at Tufts with them trying to fight the infection, where they had to give me topical eye drops every hour, on the hour, 24 hours a day for 3.5 weeks. So I never slept more than 59 minutes at a time. I was pretty loopy by the end.
You're only in your 40s.
Right, yeah, mid-40s. At the end, they, were able to, on my one eye, take out the cornea to kind of get rid of the infection, and the other eye, beat it back with medication. But when I came out, my vision was really just decimated. All I could really see, and all I can still see, is I can tell where a light in a room is. I can tell which direction the sun is. I kind of have lights and shadow.
Right.
I could tell that if something passed in front of a window, that something moved in front of the window. But that's basically it.
So did they, when they told you that it wasn't going to come back, how did you take that? Being an author now.
The first 2 months or so was just overwhelming, I guess is the word. It's just, there was a lot of things to figure out. I was the major breadwinner of my family, and I had to figure out what to do with my business. I owned my own, or was a partial owner of a firm. And so I had to kind of decide what I was doing with that. Wanted to make sure my family was all situated. And to be honest, the first 2 months I was kind of depressed and really mourning a lot of things that I'll never get to do this or see this, and one of the things was I'll never write this book because how can I do this? I'm blind. And I had where about 2 months or so, 2.5 months, I had a gentleman from the Mass Commission for the Blind come to my house to load screen reading software onto my computer. And so the gentleman came to my house, and he got on my computer, and he went on the internet and downloaded all this software, and set up, installed that software, and just got my computer all set to go. And I could tell that he was visually impaired to some degree.
Yeah.
And I asked him at the end, I said, I can tell that you're visually impaired. Do you mind me asking, how much can you see? And he said, I was born blind. I can't see anything.
Yeah.
And that was kind of a wake-up call for me of, why am I sitting around here, saying what are all the things I can't do? Let me try to figure out what I can do.
Yeah.
So I took that opportunity with now the screen reader software on my computer to sit down, and pull up the notes I had on the book and have the computer read me what I had jotted down, and just started pecking away and writing sentences and doing more research until about 8 months later or so the book was done. So
is it Braille, Aaron? Do you have a Braille computer key?
No, it's a regular keyboard. I could type without seeing before, so that was convenient. And then the computer reads back to you, so it's got voice that talks to you.
Oh, I like that. So you can just tell the story, and the computer will type it for you. Or no?
No, I typed it.
You're typing
and
it.
it's telling it back to me. So
I like that. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, so I can type a sentence and then I can go back and the computer will read me the sentence to make sure I think it sounds right, or it tells me there's a spelling error or whatever the case. So
This reminds me of my great grandmother. She passed away at 96 years young. And at the end, she was called legally blind, but she could sit down and play that piano. She could still read a little bit with her, was it magnifying glass?
Yeah.
She could still do that. We are talking with Erin Spelker, and Erin has written this great new book, The Bubonic Reorder. I mean, how apropos to what we're all going through with this pandemic. Erin, how can they get your book?
So it's available a few different places. It's on Amazon and Barnes & Noble, both ebook as well as paperback, depending which way you like to read books. I've donated it to several libraries around Massachusetts.
Which will include Upton.
Include Upton,
Yeah.
and if you're part of the Minuteman library system, you can get it through any Minuteman library in Massachusetts. And then I'm working to get it as a talking book with the Perkins Talking Library, which creates audiobooks for the blind and visually impaired. So hopefully it'll be available for free to all blind and visually impaired people through that program.
If somebody would like you to come and do a book signing or a speech, how would they reach you?
They can just email me directly. So my email is amsgoldie@gmail.com. So
Yeah.
if they can feel free to just email me
Where
directly.
have you been appearing? I think you mentioned, this is your first shot on television. Have you
Yep.
been on radio?
Podcasts. I was on the Boston Podcast Network. It's on another podcast called Third Eye Visions, which is a podcast that's focused on blind and visually impaired people who've had various achievements, climbed mountains or wrote books.
Yeah.
I had a newspaper article where you found me.
Yeah.
That was written.
Were you surprised? Who clued the newspaper people in about you? It's a great article.
Sorry, what was the question?
How did they know to come interview you for the paper?
So I have a PR person who's been kind of reaching out to podcasts and newspapers and things like that.
It's a great picture of him, and today, also in the picture, is his seeing eye dog, Crypto. Can you zero in on Crypto, Paul? He's right at the feet, basically, of Erin. And how old is Crypto?
He just turned 3 on Sunday.
Oh, on Sunday. So Sunday was...
The 8th.
He's a Leo.
Right.
I have a friend who just turned 99 on the 8th. So you got a long, you're going to have to live up to this, Crypto. Did it take long to obtain the dog at all? Some people have to wait.
So I think actually, so COVID kind of worked, I think, a little bit in my favor in this case,
Yeah.
because I was willing to quarantine down in New Jersey. I went to the CNI school, which is in New Jersey, which train people who are blind to have guide dogs. And I was willing to do the 2-week quarantine in a hotel in New Jersey before I did my training. And so a lot of people had kind of bowed out of doing that. So I think I put my application in September, and I went in April, which is pretty fast.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people have to wait up to or over a year. So.
God, that's really good. I mean, now, on the back of Erin's book, one thing I didn't check. Sometimes I'll see a picture of the author. Well, no, but you now know what he looks like. And on the back it says, the year 1347 is a difficult time to be in Sicily. Tita must leave everything she knows in order to save her son Luca from the same devastating fate that her husband experienced. The key to their survival may be within Tita's very being. Centuries later, 3 lives find themselves unexpectedly intertwined. This is a detailed book, Erin. There's a lot of thought that went into this.
That's over 130,000 words. And yeah, I mean, a lot of I think it worked to my advantage to kind of work on it over 5 years, from that 2014 to 2019, because I kind of really worked out, how people were going to be related, how, stories were going to be connected, and how you could, leave a little Easter egg at the beginning that would pay off, towards the end. So, that made it, by the time I got to writing in 2019, it was pretty easy to write, because I had really detailed all the different, plot points that had to be communicated.
he's described this as a medical thriller and a little bit of a historical fiction.
Yeah, because we have about a third or so of the book takes place
It
in.
almost felt like a sci-fi, but not really, right? Just more of a medical thriller.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I think of sci-fi as space and aliens.
Yeah, right.
Sort of thing.
Yeah, this could it could happen.
Yeah. But
And it's your first novel, and you conceived the idea in 2014,
Yeah.
but
It
you
was-
only found time to write the book in 2019 after losing your sight. You're an author, obviously. Commentator, what's that? What are you doing with that?
So as I mentioned, I was owned a financial services firm
Yeah.
and then merged that with another company, and so I have been on NPR, like when the election changed over, what was the new administration, policies going to be for the economy,
Yeah.
So I've been on different places there, doing commentating about financial and investment things.
Did you go to college to major in financial?
I did, yes.
Where'd you go?
I went to the University of Illinois, and
Wow.
then I got my MBA at Babson here in Massachusetts,
Yeah.
and then I also have my CFA, which is for investments and finance.
So without a doubt, you are a master of numbers and math, right?
Yes.
We are so opposite. Oh my God. I
Which
remember
makes
oh, God.
writing the book was interesting. I mean, again, I haven't written fiction, since high school, but I really felt when I had this dream that it was like this. It is so powerful that I feel like I needed to write it.
Yeah. Is there
And-
another book coming up?
I don't know. Again, this one was so, sparked with, just perfection of, what the story was, how it all ended up playing out, tying into this kind of real world event. I need the muse, I think, to get into it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was really, really just kind of, struck by lightning on this one of, really feeling the need. And, what was great about it, particularly, deciding to sit down in 2019 and actually write it was just great kind of mental therapy for me.
Yeah.
I just had gone through such a tragic and traumatic event
Yeah.
that I was finding an idle mind was, spiraling, into dark places. So this allowed me to, 4 to 6 hours a day, keep my mind on something else and focused on something else. So, I mean, it really did a lot for me personally, taking the time to read
Yeah,
this
I
book.
can see where the therapy part definitely, it gave you a goal.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
you reached a great goal. Oh my gosh. It's like going to say, don't stop now.
That gave me a goal. It gave me, showed that,
Yeah.
proved to myself I could be productive and get something, accomplished.
Oh, yeah,
And
definitely.
that there was, life beyond, this one day that was a bad day for me.
When I think of the way the wind blew in your eyes, you can't be the only one. Did this happen to anybody else over at the beach at any time?
The beach was completely empty. We were the only ones on the beach because it was really windy. So
Yeah.
everybody else was smart and staying off the beach.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a 1 in a million
Gee.
event.
So it didn't really hit you that much until the following morning. And it was all crusty and...
Well, the following morning after I got back to the United States.
yeah.
Which I'm so glad about because, I just,
Yeah.
great medical care here. I'm not sure about, Cancun medical care, but I'd rather be at
Yeah.
Tufts Medical than anywhere else.
Yeah, I know. I was asking my husband, I'm like, wonder if he started to get medical care in Cancun or if he waited till he got to the States. I agree with you. I would definitely, even if I had to cut my journey short.
Right.
That's it, bye. And and you got, right up in Boston, you said, they said go to Tufts, was it Tufts?
Yeah.
You got so blessed on that.
Yeah.
They're great over
Yeah,
there.
they were great over there.
Do you have to go over at all to be rechecked? Do they ever keep track?
Not to Tufts Medical, but I see an eye doctor about, every 5 weeks. They're closely monitoring my eyes.
You would be a great role model for a lot, especially like a lot of the new patients who are going through blindness of some sort or the other. I had a friend who was legally blind, but I could take him shopping. He had no problem. He could actually see what's going on. I don't know what he couldn't so much, but he did a pretty good job, and it seems to be different degrees.
Yes.
Am I right?
Yeah, I mean, blindness is a spectrum. It's not, when you're blind, it's not, you see nothing. Actually, that's a very rare case. I mean, even from my standpoint, I'm not blind where I see nothing. I do have light perception and some motion perception. But you can go just to where you have, 2,400, or I forget what the actual legally blind limit is. I think it's around there.
Yeah.
Which just means it's so blurry that you can't really make out lettering, without really blowing it up, with some sort of magnifier, as you were mentioning your friend before.
Yeah.
It's a wide spectrum, and it's also a difficult one because it's particularly if you're on that less severe end, it's a disability that is not seen. You're not in a wheelchair, you're not with a crutch per se, and so it gets a lot of harder for people to be understanding because they can see and they don't realize that you really can't see it.
Well, with crypto, it's a good sign because when people see with crypto with you, I would know immediately that was your seeing eye dog.
Yeah.
And that is, you've had him for how long now?
I just got him at the beginning of April. So he's
Okay,
pretty good.
April. Who trains these great dogs? Where do they come from?
So the Seeing Eye is an organization which I think is one of about 12 around the North America that train dogs. They raise the dogs. They have their own breeding kennels, so they'll breed a batch of dogs. Then they are there for about 8 weeks, and they go out to a family to do kind of the preliminary aspects of training and discipline for about a year, so with a foster family. Then they come back and they do an intensive 4 months training at the Seeing Eye with the trainers there. And then usually, now you're coming up at around 2 years, they are paired with a student. Crypto actually went through the intensive training twice because with COVID, they didn't have any students. They were shut down for a while.
Yeah.
So he went through a cycle, and then there were no students, so he went through the cycle again. So he actually got 8 months.
How long does it take for the dog to warm up to you, or are they're already ready to go on that?
So he definitely, and I don't know if it's all dogs, but I can tell you about him. He was very bonded with the instructor, the trainer that he had. And so my first 3 days training with him, if he saw the trainer, he was, just crazy excited to go and be with the trainer. Now, he is like that with me. If he is, away from my side, he starts getting really anxious and trying to get to me. We are very, very bonded together now.
You got a picture of him. He's like passed out at Aaron's feet, just happy as as a lark. Is he always this calm?
It's amazing. Like, he gets put into situations. He'll go to restaurants with me and just tuck under the chair.
That's it.
We went on a plane, and he was fine with that. The other day I went to the barber to get a haircut, and we had never been there before, and he just laid down, on the floor at the barber shop. He just is fine with whatever happens. It's really, I don't know how he got that way, but it's really, really, really nice stuff.
Yeah, it's obviously that he's extremely comfortable around you.
Yes.
He really, and probably just about everywhere he goes. It reminds me of our cat. We have this huge mountain lion male tabby cat, and he's like, and he's like a human being. And it's almost like you've got your best friend in the world here. Do your friends ever come and they've met Crypto? What do they think?
Unfortunately it's COVID time, so we haven't been getting together with people as much. So some of my friends have met him, and they often will be sitting around, at the dining room table or out by, we have a fire pit out back, out by the fire pit, and they forget that he's there, because it's
he's
easy
so quiet.
Yeah, it's easy to just forget. He doesn't move or do anything. My sister, I went to go visit my sister, and she fell in love with him, and she's allergic to dogs. So.
Well, like how allergic? Can she get by, or does she really go into like shock?
I think it's eased off some, and as she's gotten older. I mean, it used to be, she couldn't be in a room with a dog, and obviously she was around Crypto. Now Crypto gets groomed every day. I groom him every day.
He looks it. He's all shiny.
Yeah, every 4 weeks he goes to the groomer, for a scrub down. He gets his teeth brushed every day.
His teeth are brushed?
Yeah, he brushes his teeth every day. He gets really pampered.
Ooh.
He gets, at bedtime, he gets a muscle massage before he goes to bed. So
that's exactly what my husband does with our cat, our male cat, Ace. The cat knows exactly where to go on the bed. He gives him a rub down.
Yep.
And the cat loves it.
Yeah.
They're human.
He's very, very pampered. So.
They're very pampered. So your family, your son and your daughter and your wife, they all took the dog 1, 2, 3, right?
Yeah, I mean, he gets really, the worst part was probably the first about 3-4 weeks,
Yeah.
because they tell you, you're still newly bonded, because I've only been with him for 3 weeks at that point. So,
Yeah.
when I first get home, I've only been with him for 3 weeks. And they said, you got to really keep the bond going with you. So he was actually on a leash, attached to me at all times for 3 weeks. And, the kids really had to kind of avoid paying attention to him for
Yeah.
3 weeks. And that was just so hard, because he's so cute.
So he knows basically, does he know when if you don't feel good? Does he have sense that type of thing?
He knows when I'm getting upset.
Yeah.
He gets very anxious and tries to climb into my lap if he
Oh.
feels like I'm getting upset about something. So yeah, he's really kind of in tune.
I've noticed in hospitals, more and more people are coming in with a comfort animal or a seeing eye dog. It's great. People stop and they look and it's just becoming like, yep, that's acceptable. That's terrific.
I've been really, I heard, that some horror stories from, people that were other students who've had dogs previously of, how they were treated,
Yeah.
denied places, when you're not really supposed to do that. But my hometown in Natick, everyone's been great. Walking in here, no one blinked an eye. It's been really nice to.
Oh yeah, he's such a sweetheart. What is the lifespan of your lab? What do you think?
So they usually work 6 to 8 years, and then they can live longer than that, obviously. But usually about 6 to 8 years is when you really have them guiding you, and then you can retire them, which just means they kind of stop working and you get a different seeing eye dog.
Right.
So we could just
But
have
he's
him
part
as
of
a
the
pet.
family. He's not
Yeah.
going anywhere.
No, he's not going anywhere. He would just be a pet at that point.
Aaron Spelker, and he is the author of the Bubonic Reorder. You got to read it. It's kind of a mixture of a medical thriller and a historical fiction. I would say just about any age from late teens. What would you say?
Yeah, it's pretty mild. There's some curse words in it, but nothing too graphic.
Yeah, right.
I think any teenager could easily read that book. I'll let my kids read it. So, and it's really kind of for anybody. It's really kind of talking about the how people are reacting as the world is kind of crumbling around them, and it's kind of really about that human story of who are you when you're faced with danger and uncertainty. And some people rise to the occasion and some people buckle under it. So there's a lot of that kind of
A lot of people
theme.
deny it too, right?
Yes. Yep.
Oh. Once again, Aaron, how can people reach you, get the book?
Yeah, so the book is, like I said, on Amazon and Barnes & Noble, paperback, ebook version. If you're here in Massachusetts, it's at some of the local libraries. If you are blind or visually impaired, it's going to be a little while because they're still slow because of COVID, but I'm hoping to get it with the Perkins Talking Library to be an audiobook that'll be on the BARD system, which is a system where blind and visually impaired people can listen to audiobooks. I think those were pretty much all the major places. I was thinking as well, if anybody was wanting to do a book club and have my book, I'd be, and they're here in Massachusetts, I'd be happy to participate along with their discussion about the characters and the story and the plot, and how different scenes kind of came together and got developed. So if you wanted a behind the scenes,
If somebody wanted you to come and give a presentation and book signing, do you have a limit as to where you might go?
I guess it all depends. I am blind, so it's not always the easiest getting various places. But I'm sure they could just reach out to me and we could work something out. So.
Yeah, I think that's great. Oh, God, there's so many places. Even, I've talked about this before. Senior centers love authors. I know many of my authors said, well, why are you sending me there? First of all, they read too. And second of all, a lot of them have grandchildren. They've got relatives. It's not just about, them. This is great. We've been talking with Aaron Spelker, and Aaron is a very brave guy. He got wind sand, right in his face when he and his wife were on vacation. Their 20th honeymoon? 20th anniversary of their marriage, their honeymoon, or second honeymoon. And he went blind. And he's got two fairly grown children, right? One kind of, the other one?
Almost 17 and 13.
There you go. He's got a lot on his plate. And then maybe there might be another book, right? Might be.
Yes.
Never know. Thank you for being with us, Aaron.
Thank you.
And thank you for bringing...
Has he moved?
Oh,
there you go.
He knows.
Yeah, he knows.
Oh, he just had a yawn like, are you done yet? Thanks, Aaron.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. See you next time and be my guest.
All right.
Heading out toward a dream. Tomorrow's even closer than it seems. Moving through the cloudless sky, heading out toward the moon. I am dancing to the lunar tune.